Okay, welcome back to the channel, everybody. This is Robert Smirking Gun Reviews, and I said I wasn't binging this, but I did have to make the next video for The Man in the High Castle Season 3, Episode 2, right after I realized the two things I forgot to mention in the last episode. One was when Trudy was having her seizure. Spoilers, by the way, for if you haven't seen this episode or the last one. When Trudy was having her seizure and Juliana grabbed her, she saw the vision of her life in the other world, showing her connection to Tagomi, which is a very important thing in this episode. Second, okay, so William Forsythe is playing J. Edgar Hoover. Why did they wait so long to introduce J. Edgar Hoover? Okay, one of the things that just hasn't occurred to me while I'm watching this is, you know, we see these famous German Nazis, these Nazi guys like Himmler and Hitler, and you know, but we never really see anybody. It just, the kind of all the people that were around in that time in America, it just didn't occur to me, and I was like, oh my God, J. Edgar Hoover. Holy shit! No wonder I was thinking bodies are going to start hitting the floor, and no wonder he was talking to that reporter with such interest, because J. Edgar Hoover was a slimy dude who liked to just spy on everyone. So it makes sense going into this episode when they say Edgar Hoover. Like, I looked at the episode descriptions, like J. Edgar Hoover, I was like, oh, fuck me. That's a big thing to miss. Because they said Edgar. I was like, okay, Edgar, whatever, he's a Nazi. I didn't connect the dots. He even looks like J. Edgar Hoover. So anyway, again, if you're new to the channel, we do have seasons 1 and 2, all of them reviewed, if you want to take a look at those. Otherwise, this is season 3, episode 2. It's called Imagine Manchuria. And like I said, spoilers if you have not seen the episode. So, man, you know, I hate this because I like to try and stay on track, but these episodes, man. So, Juliana and Trudy show up at Tagomi's at the end of last episode, and she, you know, confesses, like when he hands her the pictures of his wife and her son, she sees the vision again, a little bit different, a little bit more information this time, knowing that she was married to his son in another world, had a baby with him, and Tagomi, you know, tells her, yeah, you were my daughter-in-law in another world. And so that's pretty big. That there's a connection going on between the two of them. How deep it goes, we don't really know, because, I mean, how many worlds, how many universes, how connected are they? Probably pretty deep, I would say. One thing right off the bat is I was wrong, that it was Smith that sent that group to Colorado to kill Abinson. So Abinson was not plotting anything to get Juliana to join his cause. That was just them botching the job, letting Juliana and her sister get the drop on them. But probably because they didn't know Juliana and Trudy were there. But speaking of Juliana and Trudy, so they get caught like right away by Kido. And that was just like, fucking really? This episode 2, they are immediately caught by Kido. Like, immediately. And it was bad enough that she got caught, but then Trudy comes running out. And now Kido has to look at a woman that looks exactly like the woman he murdered in episode 1. And that look on his face was worth it pretty much for the price of, you know, of seeing them get caught, like, immediately, which was a major bummer to me. I was just like, come the fuck on. But so now they got them locked up, and Kido has to wrap his head around the fact that he's got a picture of this girl that he just arrested that looks exactly like Trudy. And then Tagomi goes over Kido's head once he finds out that they've been taken, because Tagomi has his man keeping an eye on them. Tagomi goes way over his head to, like, the admiral or whatever to have them released. And Kido is like, well, you know, he's having a hard time keeping his temper in check, because he doesn't understand what's going on, even though him and Tagomi are both together in, like, where last season Kido took the film to Smith. So there's treason on both sides, because he starts trying to accuse Tagomi of treason. It's like, hey man, you took the film to, New York. There's a lot of treason going around. All right, the road to peace is not easy, he says. So you're gonna have to like make some concessions here. But Kido is one of those guys, man. I don't know. Like, I love him. Like, he's such an interesting character. But I feel like I don't know how much you can push him before he might just go, you know what? I don't really want anything to do with this. What's going on? I want peace, but he's not been able to wrap his head around it, because he says, like, well, I saw the girl I killed. I saw her die. And Tagomi's just like, well, the easiest explanation is it's not the same girl. And technically, it's not. It is, but it's not. It's the same. She's got the same DNA, but she's not the same Trudy. I don't know why he didn't just come out and say, look, man, let's have some sake and we'll talk about it. I'll lay it all out for you. Right? I can travel through different dimensions, and so can she. But I guess they want to stretch that out as far as they can. But just fine. And as far as Juliana and Tagomi and everything goes, the end of this episode, they do get Trudy to travel out, because things is just too scary for them there. So that's pretty much it for Juliana's story and everything this week. Is they did get Trudy to travel out and leave our world because it's just too much, and that they had to let go. Like, Juliana's, their connection was too hard, and so she had to let go of the Trudy she lost in order to let Trudy go. Which makes me just kind of go, why'd they bring Trudy back? Except maybe she was delivering a film, and it just so happened that, whatever, maybe that was supposed to, make Juliana want to be part of the revolution or whatever. But still kind of like, in the end, what did she really do? Maybe she'll be back, I don't know. So now so Joe has almost nothing to do in this episode, except Smith realizes that his buddy that gave Joe the papers hasn't been seen since. And I guess, so Joe's in San Francisco, and Joe realizes that apparently frat guys are in the Reich. He meets a couple of them. Yeah, these guys were like Nazi frat boys. Completely. They might as well have been saying bro, like Heil Hitler bro, because the way they were talking. And this guy gives him a file that's confidential, and it looks like he's supposed to find the guy who defected, the Nazi officer that defected to the Japanese. That appears to be his mission, and that's pretty much it for Joe. Now, the big crux of this is you finding out, like, J. Edgar Hoover, and his buddy, the other guy, that guy's pretty much just worried about his job. He thinks Smith is trying to take his job. Well, Edgar's trying to tell him that Smith really doesn't, has ever really wanted, high power positions. And that's kind of true. I think he likes where he's at. And with the difficulties that are going on in his family, you can see why he wouldn't want to have too much, spotlight on him. Because these guys are trying to dig in, as much dirt on him as he can. Because, again, this guy's just worried about his job. Again, these guys in the Reich are so paranoid and so petty. And Hoover, hey, spying and looking up dirt on people is like breathing for that guy. So, of course, they're going into the whole thing about his daughters having the same genetics as Thomas, and they might have the same disease that he did. So they're going to try to use that against Smith. And use the reporter and use Alice Anders, the wife of the doctor that Smith killed, as, to get that word out so that they can say, well, we didn't say anything, this reporter did. Now, on that side, Smith did kill her husband. He did, and he, because he was going to tell about Thomas. And so it's a hard thing to talk about, because I've said this in other reviews. I don't want to sympathize with Smith. He's an American who turned Nazi. Everything bad that happens to him, he should get. But then you hear like stories about his family and stuff, and the kids and things, and you go, okay, I don't want anything bad to happen to his kids. It's not his kids' fault that they were raised in this, world. I wouldn't want people to hold it over my head that I was raised a Jehovah's Witness, Like I was born into that, and I did the right thing and I got the hell out of there. So it's like, the kids have the right to grow up and try to figure out things on their own. So they shouldn't be punished for, the sins of the father kind of thing. So that's where I do sympathize, where Hoover and this guy, man, I hope Smith can figure out a way to stop that shit because it's not cool. Now, Helen starts seeing a therapist over Thomas's death. And again, like I said, it does appear that Thomas is dead, but again, don't be surprised if in the 11th hour you find out he's alive. And in this, after the reporter, Thelma, releases this, crappy gossip about her daughters possibly having the same disease as Thomas, this is where Smith has to step in and bring Thelma to his office, which was pretty great because he hardly had to say a word. And I don't know what this chick thought. I guess this chick thought that Hoover and everybody would be protecting her from this kind of thing. But there's not really anybody that can protect you from John Smith when it comes to his family. And so he talks her into being a double agent for him, or he'll expose the fact that Hoover is holding what's holding over her head, which is that her husband appears to be having a gay relationship, a homosexual relationship with another man while that she married to her, and that she would just lose her job, but her husband would lose everything. Their whole life would just be blown up. And so to keep her secret that Hoover's holding over her head, he wants her to work for him. I mean, so this lady's got I'm not going to say she's got the raw end of the stick, because the job she's doing, this tabloid dish rag bullshit that we have even today, the scumbags who write every stupid little thing about people and their lives that have none of our business, the celebrity rags and all that crap. Not that I give a shit about the celebrity rags, but I mean, it's not news. All she's doing is hurting people for the sake of her career, and she's just another American that, basically that's turned Nazi, so I don't have any sympathy for this chick. And then Helen takes it upon herself to go talk to Alice. And I figured that there was really only a couple ways that this conversation was going to go, and the one that happened was the one that I figured, I don't think one of these ladies is walking out of here. And I was right. First, they slap each other, which I was like, okay. Once the slapping started, it was a little Dynasty, if you know what I'm talking about. Maybe 1% of the people will get that reference, but once they started really going at it, like that was it. Somebody's not walking out of here, and the girls are right outside. And so Helen takes the glass ashtray and clonks her on the head. Well, I guess she's got that must have been one fucking pretty heavy ashtray or whatever, because she fucking killed her with it with one blow. Or dying. I mean, she appears pretty fucking dead in that chair. So now she's got that hanging over her. The girls are right outside, so how do you cover that up? It's possible. It's definitely going to be doable. But now both the doctor and the doctor's wife are dead. So you trying to cover that up is just going to give more fuel for Hoover's fire. That'll be pretty interesting to go with. I'm trying to think of anything else that's major in here. Bob and Ed and their little journey. They're in New Mexico, neutral zone. Bob is trying to swindle people out of their jewelry. And Ed's trying to tell him, look, man, you got to watch that shit, because people will, karma will come back on you if you get around the wrong people out here. And then they meet this guy who's eyeballing him like Aragorn in the frickin' Fellowship of the Ring. And so he comes over and buys them a drink. He says his name is Jack, and that's all we get. So that's it for Bob and Ed's little story. I like Bob and Ed. I would like to see more of them. But that story really didn't... I would have thought they'd have given us something about this guy Jack already, but I guess we're going to have to wait for more episodes to do that. Let me check this real quick to make sure I haven't missed anything. Yeah, there's the oil embargo, which does affect Bob and Ed's trip. You find out that they're charging a lot more for gas now, so the thing down in Panama. So, you know, that's another interesting part of this story is how Japan and the Nazis kind of, they won't start they're trying not to start an all-out war together. It kind of makes me think of The Expanse and how Mars and Earth on that show are always this fine Cold War. So it's like, even though like we lost the war, there's still a Cold War in this universe happening between Japan and the Nazis, where the Nazis are trying to put a stranglehold on the Japanese by taking away the oil reserves down in Panama and stuff, and making things really difficult for them. And pretty much it's going to be whoever flinches, you know, they're playing chicken with each other. So eventually this will come to a head. And that's about it. I think that's about all I have for this episode. The spy that was watching Juliana before she got on the bus, working for Smith, that was accurate, okay? So that wasn't just somebody who forgot to yell cut. And now Smith calls Kido to make sure that he is on the lookout for Juliana. But both of them appear to be, again, like playing chicken. Like Smith, I think, already knows that he's calling Kido as a courtesy, but like he has a suspicion that Kido probably already knows. And Kido has a suspicion that Smith already probably knows. They're just not going to admit it to each other. And we have Kido with his board, with the Man in the High Castle, and on one side is Juliana with all the connections to that, and then he's got Tagomi next to it, and so he's got his own little investigation going into all that. Also, Kido's wannabe sergeant, I said that he was either going to be a traitor or he was going to try to do something big, and he does. Because he's supposed to go after the people. He wanted to find out what the little paintings were that Frank's buddy smuggled into the area that the resistance hanging up, like the Dawn thing. He wants to know what that means, and then he ends up going to try to get the priest, the last guy standing from the what do we call it, the underground rebellion. But that goes completely south and everybody gets blown up. So yeah, he tried to do something big and then everybody got blown up. But the priest is not there. So that's about it. He's got one last chance to find this guy. Or as Kido says, you know, I'm going to send you somewhere. And if you think it's cold here in San Francisco, imagine Manchuria. And we have a title. So anyway, I think that's about it for this episode. So if you did like it, please hit the like button, comment, share, subscribe, all that jazz. Hit the bell for all notifications. And this is Rob from Smirking Gun Reviews saying we will be back probably later with episode 3. In the meantime, I will be doing an episode of The Expanse. And that's about it. So we'll see you on the next video. All right, have a good one. Bye.